Hi, everyone. So welcome to this week's Children's Talk. And we're in the second week of Lent. And if you listened to our Children's Talk last week, you would know that I said that Lent is a time for reboots. By reboot, I mean it is a time to spring clean ourselves. Now, during Lent, we journey towards celebrating Easter. So we journey towards celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, and we reflect on some of the wonderful things that Jesus did, the ministry of Jesus. We reflect on his dying on the cross and raising to dead. We reflect on all of the beautiful gifts of salvation that Jesus gives us, and we respond to what Jesus did by praying, fasting, and giving. There's so many other ways we can respond to the wonderful things that Jesus did. So this week we are celebrating the second week of Lent. And so we get to learn something about the ministry of Jesus. But before we get into all of that, I have got a question. Now, my question is, do you own a pet? Now, you can raise your hand. Let's see who owns a pet. Well, I'm going to put my hands down because I don't really own a pet right now, even though I did when I was a kid. But I'm sure most of us own pets. Well, even if we don't, we know one or two or more people who own pets. So my second question is, do pets always do what you want them to do? And I would say the answer is no, they don't always do what we want them to do. Actually, sometimes they do the exact opposite. For instance, imagine if you want to give your dog a bath. The dog would certainly resist. Well, not certainly, but in many instances, the dog wouldn't want to take the bath. They would either run away or they would shake themselves off or they would try to resist. Well, most pets would, but some would actually take the bath. But this is just an example. Well, not just pets, but sometimes we don't always do what our parents want us to do. For example, bedtime. Your mom might want you to go to bed during bedtime, and you absolutely resist closing your eyes and sleeping. Or your mom or your dad would want you to do your homework, and you would actually resist doing your homework when you were supposed to. So sometimes we don't always do what our parents or our pets want us to do. But in our story today, Jesus actually repeats the same thing about the people of Jerusalem at the time. Jesus said that he longs to gather the people together, just like a mother hen gathers its chicks under its wing. Now that sounds nice. And if you can't imagine what that looks like, here's a picture of a mother hen actually gathering its chicks under its wing. Now that is nice, that is comforting, that is cozy, and that is protecting. But alas, the people did not want to be gathered under the care of God by listening to Jesus, just like our pets would resist doing what we want them to do, or sometimes we resist doing what our parents want us to do. And so Jesus was really frustrated because he knows that it was really good for them to be guided under the care and love of God by listening to him. Just like we know that it is good for our pets to take a bath from time to time. And just like our parents know it is good for us to go to bed during bedtime, and it is good for us to do our homeworks. But they didn't. And so it is kind of a sad story, right? But guess what? Even though the people of Jerusalem at the time refused to be guarded under God's love, but chose to jump away from God's love, just like our pets might do when we want to give them a bath, that is, we today, we can choose to accept God's love and care by following Jesus. So when we follow Jesus, we receive God's love and care, and we learn from Jesus. And so when we receive God's love and care, we are able to share God's love and share God's care, just like Jesus did. And that is the good news for us today. And speaking of sharing God's love and care, our church, Christ Church St. James, we are actually showing God's love in a truly beautiful way this Lent season. We're thinking about helping those who are homeless and those who are facing various housing challenges. We're working with a Dale ministry to provide housing for people who are struggling with housing situations. And we're also thinking about building homes for people who may have been released from prison or jail and are struggling to get good housing. So that is something we would be thinking about throughout this Lent season. And also stay tuned as we listen to some of our friends from the children ministry tell us something about the importance of housing.
Hello everyone, I'm going to build a house during the Lent season. First, we are going to make the kitchen because we have to become strong, cook and eat to become strong. To make a house during this Lent season, first we'll start by making the kitchen. Bye everyone.
Thanks for joining us, and God bless you this Lenten season.